Welcome, PI Nation. You're listening to the Politically Incorrect Podcast. Here are your hosts, Matt, Evaldo, and Deshawn.
Welcome, PI Nation, to another episode. This is your host, Matt. I'm so glad and excited to be back. I had to use my white privilege to have a vacation time because I just had a baby. Well, my wife did anyways. I was just there for support. But I used my white privilege. I was able to take a couple episodes off, and I'm glad to be back. It's good to be back with my fellow hosts here. We have Evaldo Barros.
What's up, everybody?
And also Deshawn Barros.
What's up?
We have some great and exciting topics for you for this great Monday. It's called Rat Race Monday. So exciting. We're going to be talking about the issues in Baltimore. We're going to be talking about what the media considers controversial comments by our president. I beg to differ, but we'll talk about that. Then we also have some other minor topics that we'll go over, such as the recent shootings, the Garlic Festival, also what happened in El Paso, and then we have some fun and interesting topics to also go over later in the show. So we'll see you in a few minutes.
No small talk, man?
None. He's getting down to business, bro. Right down.
Politically Incorrect. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the show. Matt, Evaldo, and Deshawn would really like to thank you guys for your support and for tuning in today. Also, in order to keep the show growing, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and like and share this video as well. And hit the bell notification to receive all of our updates. Thanks, guys. And remember, in PI Nation, there's no political correctness. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts. You are about to re-enter the PI Nation.
And we're back. Welcome, PI Nation. We're going to be talking about our main topic for Rat Race Monday. So basically what I'll do is I'll go over some tweets that the president had sent out, get your guys' opinion on it. And basically the whole controversy is the Democrats and the liberal media saying what I'm about to read is that it's racist. Now, that seems to be the narrative of the media and Democrats. Basically, anything they disagree with, you're automatically racist. But let me read it, and we'll get your guys' take on it. So this is what the president said to Elijah Cummings after the Democrats did that whole spiel of visiting the border and basically saying a bunch of lies about how the conditions were on the border, when in fact, when they actually went there, it was actually spotless clean. And basically, President Trump is saying here that it's better run than some of these districts that these Democrats are running. So here's what he says. He says, as proven last week during a congressional tour, the border is clean, efficient, and well-run, just very overcrowded, which the president has been saying for a long time now.
Right.
But the Democrats were saying that was a manufactured crisis. Cummings District is a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. So I'll stop there. What do you guys think about that? Do you think any of that is racist?
Well, can you read it again, bro?
So he says, Cummings District is a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place.
Oh, that's not racist. Why would that be racist? I think that's just pointing something out, pointing objective view. I mean, anybody who's thinking that's a racist comment is somebody who's only acting off emotion.
I don't think it's racist. The contention on the left is that he only criticizes in that fashion to places of color.
Right.
Like when he said Haiti is S-hole people and people of Africa or something like that are not the greatest, things like that.
Right. Which I'll actually come back to later because I have proof that that's not true.
Yeah.
One of his other tweets was that, again, against Representative Elijah Cummings, he says, has been a brutal bully, shouting and screaming at the great men and women of Border Patrol about the conditions at the southern border, when actually his Baltimore district is far worse and more dangerous. His district is considered the worst in the United States of America. Does any of that seem racist to any of you guys?
No,
That doesn't.
no, I don't find
I
that racist.
Think it's the rat infested
I
is
think-
what triggered people.
Okay. So let's talk about that. So,
I see how that would trigger somebody. Honestly, I really do. I see how that could get you mad. Like if somebody called your house a mess. You know what I mean?
right, but if I call your house a mess, does that make me a racist?
No, I
don't-
just think that makes you honest.
It's not just that, because Juan Williams of the Five brought out the point that, well, how come he doesn't say that with other white places that have heroin and all
But he
those kind of
does,
drugs?
and I actually have proof of that.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Um,
I honestly think that if we would step back a moment and just look at what he said, he was talking about a place. He wasn't talking about a people. And fortunately, so happens that there are black folks that live there.
right.
So if he's talking about a certain place, he's just pointing something out. And if you're mad that he's pointing something out, then you're mad about the wrong reasons.
And the other thing is, why is he pointing it out? He's responding to the criticism he first got from Elijah Cummings, so he punched back. It wasn't like he just woke up and decided, I just feel like being racist today.
Right, because they've been attacking him on the conditions of the border, which again makes no sense because all of that was going on during President Obama, as far as cages and overcrowding and just overall conditions. And then during that tour, they found out, even the media had to admit that it was actually well run and it was pretty clean. Besides it being overcrowded, there really wasn't an issue as far as, they're getting better treated than probably the people of Baltimore.
Hey, there's a video in Baltimore of a reporter doing a segment, and right behind her, a mouse or a rat pops up, and she didn't notice it. And the camera guy pointed and went to where the mouse was or the rat was. And it was just funny. I think it was Rush Limbaugh that mentioned it.
Was this in Baltimore?
It was in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually funny because one of the mayors that resigned from Baltimore, she herself was asking where all these rodents were coming from. And this was a black mayor. I believe it was Sheila. Her name is Sheila. That had mentioned the comments. But let's also, Trump also put out another tweet, because the one thing about Baltimore and the Trump administration is he's actually given
Yeah.
Baltimore a record amount of government grants, a little bit over $15 billion.
I seen that, bro. I seen that. Wasn't there like an article on that?
Right, yeah. It's
in the news.
It's in the news. A couple of high-profile people on Twitter, I think Charlie Kirk, have mentioned it as well. Candace Owens. So where is all that money
$15
going?
billion,
And here's what the
America?
president is saying. He's saying, why is so much money sent to Elijah Cummings district when it is considered the worst run and most dangerous anywhere in the United States? No human being would want to live there. Where is all the money going? How much is stolen? Investigate the corrupt mess immediately. Does any of that sound unreasonable or racist to you?
Yes, because he's white and he's a racist, so it has to be racist. And
Can
he's
you-
criticizing
I'm
black
sorry,
people.
bro. Do you
You
mind
can't
saying
criticize
that one more time?
black people.
Yep. So this was President Trump response to all the money that the government is giving Elijah Cummings. So he says, why is so much money sent to Elijah Cummings district when it is considered the worst run and most dangerous anywhere in the United States? No human being would want to live there. Where is all the money going? How much is stolen? Investigate this corrupt mess immediately. Does any of that sound racist to you?
You wanna know how a black ignorant person is thinking right now? Yo, why isn't he saying that to some of those white leaders? He ain't telling them that they're stealing money.
Yeah.
Why is it gotta? Why is it gotta be the black dude?
It's not
But that's-
racist though,
that's
bro.
not-
It's honestly pointing out an issue and
Right.
trying to get it solved. And
But
I think
he's called for the investigations of Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation.
Mhm.
Is that not racist? Is that the same thing?
yeah.
I know what you're saying, but what I'm telling you is when people are this emotionally triggered, common sense
Oh,
doesn't get
I know
factored
that.
in.
Common sense goes out the window with the
So-
emotion. But if there's a black viewer or anybody watching right now, I want you to really sit back instead of getting emotional about and getting triggered about what the president's saying. Why don't we actually look at the problems that he's trying to point out? He's pointing out some issues. Just to quote something, Baltimore received $15.7 billion in taxpayer dollars in 2018, and it went all down the rat hole. And we say that because
No pun intended.
we say that because this man Elijah Cummings, he seems to be benefiting from these funds in many ways.
Right. I mean, this guy has been in Congress or in government for over 30 years, and
So
his
why isn't it-
district is still the worst run. I mean, I understand that he did something during the civil rights movement, but you can't continuously fall back on something you did 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and then
You
just
hit-
not do anything.
You
Like
hit
if
it on the head. This is why it's an issue because he's a civil rights icon.
like if I did that, like if I did something great for my work 10 years ago
Yeah.
and then just did nothing, just coasted through the rest, I would be fired.
He's coasting Black America. He's coasting on taxpayer dollars.
So where's all this money going, and how is he rich off of a congressman's salary?
Come on, Baltimore.
What?
Wake up, Baltimore.
What do they make? Let me look that up.
I think it's something
What's he
like
making?
$178,000 a year.
Oh, he's got more than that.
that. It's nothing big, but
You know what they
and
call
it's not
it?
just him; it's all these Congress people.
You know what they call their bonuses, bro? They call it. I remember looking at my college chairman, or I should say chancellor's
Is
pay.
it
They call it
breadcrumbs?
other pay.
Other pay.
It's like their bonuses. They get bonuses.
$174,000 per year.
What does he need 174,000
So,
for per year?
I mean, that's a pretty good chunk of change, but you got to consider that you're living in D.C. It's cost of living is high, plus you're living in wherever you're coming from. How do all these politicians get so rich, living off of $178,000 a year?
oh boy.
Crazy.
They get a pension too.
$15.7
80%.
billion down the rat hole.
And we can't even get funding for the Border Patrol, but yet, you know, they're clean. They're getting the supplies that they need. It's not rat infested.
So should I take them to the polling that we did?
Yeah, so let's go to the poll, and then we'll talk about a couple of other things real quick.
We did a quick poll on Facebook, and the question was, do you think Trump's position on Baltimore's failed leadership is about rats or the race? And 11 votes we got, and we got 6 on the rats and 5 on the race. I actually voted race. That's funny.
Why'd you vote race? You thought it was about race?
No. I probably because remember when you told me to redo it, so I probably just hit it.
Oh, okay.
Either way, even if I was on, let me think for a second in an emotional standpoint, triggered. If I was looking at these comments in a liberal's point of view, I would definitely feel hurt. Because they're not thinking logically, they're not thinking objectively about certain situations. They're only thinking about the circumstances in which he's pointing out. Oh, he's only saying this because they're black. No, he's saying this because it's a problem. There's a problem there that needs to be fixed.
Correct. And the word black or race was never used in any of those comments that I just.
Not one. I didn't hear you say race, black,
And is there
anything like that.
Are there no white people in Baltimore?
Oh, there's white people in Baltimore.
I just think it's because Elijah Cummings is a civil rights icon, and the Democrats have had years of this where they don't want to criticize the blacks in leadership. You know what I mean? Because they're supposed to be the champions of like these inner cities. They're supposed to be taking care of them, and if somebody calls them out on it, it's not going
Right.
to be attractive or good.
Yeah, I have no clue how
That's a great point.
how
Ivo.
that ended up happening. You had the Republicans who championed the civil rights movement, yet you have these black leaders that ended up in the Democrat Party. But anyways,
That's true.
Al Sharpton came out. Now this is a racist man. Al Sharpton. He also doesn't pay his taxes. But anyways, he comes out and he says that this is a racial issue because Trump's a racist. Because again, like what Evaldo had mentioned, he's specifically targeting black people because of what he's saying about Baltimore.
Yeah.
But during the campaign, Trump actually heavily criticized New Hampshire, which is mostly white people, because he called them a drug-infested mess, which is not far off to what he just said about Baltimore. And what's funny is Elijah Cummings himself also said, which recently came out in a video, he said that Baltimore is drug and violence infested himself. So why is it okay for Elijah Cummings to say that his city is drug infested and poor, but the president can't say the same thing?
Right. And hold that thought.
Yep.
We'll answer those questions. We will be coming when we get back on the other side. I'm Evaldo Barros, Matt, and Deshaun will be right back after these messages.
Politically incorrect.
Hey guys, hope you like the show today. The guys here just want to say what's up and keep you guys posted with all the latest. So do us a favor and like us on Politically Incorrect at Facebook. Follow us on Instagram on the Politically Incorrect Pod and on Twitter at PipNation508. And don't forget, this is the only show where the blacks don't vote blue. Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts and prepare to be offended. We are re-entering the Politically Incorrect podcast.
Welcome back, PI Nation. We're going to continue our conversation about Baltimore. Deshaun, though, he has some poll information for us. Why don't you take it away, Deshaun?
What's up, everybody? So this past July 31st, we had a poll on Facebook, and it said, do you think Trump's position on Baltimore's failed leadership is about rats or race? And 55% of the voters voted rats, and 45% of the voters voted race. And we had 11 votes in total. Please go and vote. And keep us in mind as you are viewing us. I'm going to give it back over to Matt.
All right. So before we went on break, we were talking about Elijah Cummings in the video that resurfaced of himself admitting that Baltimore was drug infested,
Right.
and that it's a mess. And there's nothing wrong with being honest, because the only way that you're going to fix problems is by being honest. We live in Fall River, New Bedford area. Run by Democrats since God knows when, and we have some serious issues here. But if we just sugarcoat everything, how can we ever address those issues? How can we ever fix those issues? But Evaldo had mentioned that Bernie had said something as well. What did he say?
He called Baltimore a third world country, and the president mentioned this in an article by the Baltimore Suns. I'll read his tweet. The president's tweet was, "Crazy Bernie Sanders recently equated the city of Baltimore to a third world country. Based on that statement, I assume that Bernie must now be labeled a racist, just as a Republican would if he used that term in standard. The fact is, Baltimore can be brought back. Maybe."
Right. So
Maybe.
that's a good point, because I frequent Twitter a lot, and none of the comments that I've heard or seen have mentioned Bernie Sanders being a racist by saying that, or by Elijah Cummings saying that. So why is it that these two Democrats can get away with saying stuff like that, but yet President Trump can't?
You guys are missing the black culture. Okay, let me explain this to you. This is an issue because Elijah Cummings is black. In the black culture, there are certain white people that can get away with certain stuff and others that can't. For instance, remember when Hillary said in an interview that all black people look alike?
Yes.
A lot of black people were not offended by that because that's their homegirl. That's that one white person that can get away with certain stuff.
Right.
And if you pay attention close enough, in certain neighborhoods, there's always that one white kid that can use the N-word and get a pass for it because he's down. He understands the black culture, so to speak. Okay? Mm-hmm. And maybe someone like Eminem could do that. So this is what's going on here. It's because Elijah Cummings is black and Bernie's down with the blacks, but Trump isn't. So Bernie can say the same thing and get away with it while Trump can't.
Right.
It's the black culture, man.
So you brought up my friend Hillary. You think she's still carrying Tabasco sauce in her purse?
I remember that she said that I got hot sauce in my purse, and they're like, "Are you pandering?" She's like, "Yeah, is it working?" They like her, man, because that's how black people think. They can't think outside of those terms. Like this is the culture that they have. It's very weird. It's like it defies like common sense or facts. It's just based on emotions. It's just a weird thing.
And if you follow people like Diamond and Silk, I don't know if you two are familiar with them. They're two black ladies.
Diamond and Silk, you said?
Diamond and
Who
Silk.
would be considered Oreos in regular
Right.
black people's eyes.
You follow people like Candace Owens. They've posted many videos of going through the city of Baltimore and just seeing the conditions of what some of these people are living through. And you just have to wonder, where is that $15.7 billion really going to? Because it's definitely not serving these people.
Oh,
What do you-
certainly not. Certainly not.
I don't know. What do you think he's doing with it?
Vacationing.
I mean, it's probably not just all him, but I'm sure he's definitely getting some sort of kickbacks, or I don't know. The money's just not going where it should be going.
So let me read a recent tweet by Rep. Elijah Cummings himself. 2 hours. It might not have really much to talk about on the subject of him and Trump, but he did tweet out about 2 hours ago. I am horrified to learn of a second mass shooting in less than 24 hours. My soul aches for the Dayton community. This must stop. I pray for the victims and their loved ones, and I thank all the first responders. May God watch over everyone affected by this tragedy. Never again. So that's a recent tweet. I guess what he's saying is that there's been a recent shooting. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. Guess there's been a shooting in Dayton community. I'm not sure where that is, but our prayers certainly go out to the victims and whoever was affected by that shooting. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Oh, was that the so-called white nationalist shooting?
Well, there's been a couple. There was the one in California, which was the Garlic Festival. Which,
Oh yeah, I did hear
which-
about that one with the kids and the
which
officers.
CNN tried to paint as a white nationalist. Turned out that shooter was actually a liberal Iranian who was anti-capitalist. Then you had the most recent one that was actually in El Paso, Texas, which I believe happened yesterday. And that one, they also tried to push as a crazy Trump supporter because he had some pro-Trump tweets, but come to find out, he's actually a registered Democrat. So that's just something that, I mean, I don't know about that one in Dayton, if that's a new one today, or if he's
Yeah,
referring
it looks
to
like
El
it's
Paso.
recent. It looks like it's recent because this is like a tweet from like 2 hours ago, bro. So
Yeah.
I think this is recent. But any of the victims, my heart goes out to you guys. I mean, I would not want any of this to happen to anybody.
Yeah, I
else in
think
this
one of the
community.
worst things with these shootings is it does become political. People are always trying to point it to one side, and the fact of the matter is there's just crazy people out there.
Yeah, and honestly, I think people don't allow politicians to stand on the graves of people and to push their agendas. I think that's a problem. Don't let people stand on people's tragedies. Use tragedies as a way to push political agendas, and I think that as not only the black community but any community for that matter, you should not be fall victim to this kind of political persuasion.
I do have two more things about Baltimore, and then I'll kick it off to you guys, or we'll go to break at that point. So there was one thing. So during this time, if you don't know who Ben Carson is, he's the director of the HUD division in the Trump administration. He actually went to Baltimore to see what was going on with these housing situations, and he invited the Rep. Elijah Cummings, and he actually refused to go on the tour with Ben Carson. So here you go. You know, this is a man that's supposed to be representing that district, and he's not even really interested in seeing what those people actually need. You got the HUD director personally going out there inviting you, and you just absolutely refuse.
Yeah, that's
to
a good point. I actually wanted to mention that. That's one thing that the Democrats can work with Trump on. Another thing is Trump can actually offer them a nice infrastructure plan because he's big on infrastructure. He wants to spend a lot of money on that.
Exactly.
And with jobs too, creation in Baltimore. So the Democrats can work with the Republicans here, but I think that they don't want to give Trump a win so bad as not to disappoint their base that they're not willing to do that.
And I
So
think that's a
agree.
great place to start because I think honestly, if we come together politically as a country and realize what's actually going on, Black America, White America, Hispanic America, whoever you are, and just come together to fix our community and fix our problems, we'll have a better system in place.
The Democrats, they just hate Trump so much that and they've dug themselves such a hole. I don't ever see them coming out of that. Maybe you'll have some moderate Democrats that'll
Yeah.
break here and there.
Well, I honestly believe
but-
where there's life, there's hope, man. If
Yeah.
we're still alive, we're not dead. You know what I mean? So we can still fix these issues. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think that it's going to take a lot of work, but I think if both sides are willing to cooperate and to compromise where it needs be, and especially on these racist issues, because if they keep pushing these things, they're going to create bigger and larger problems for the next generation coming up.
And all these inner cities are run by like Democrats, and they're all failing.
Yeah.
And instead of just dumping money in them, I think they need ideas. They need the family unit to come back. They need
Yeah.
someone to actually go in there
Yeah.
and work on rebuilding the actual community
Yep.
from the ground up.
What do you think of
That's what
social
they
work?
need.
Do you think that works?
What do you mean by that?
Well, social work, like foster
No.
care, social workers.
It helps, but it doesn't solve the root cause of the problem.
Right. You're not
Yeah.
fixing the family still. You know?
I honestly,
it's the
I
family
believe,
unit.
I believe that the church needs to get involved.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the answer.
Yeah.
If someone gets closer to God, they can certainly fix their lives. That is the true answer.
Yeah, yeah, certainly,
You know
certainly.
what I mean?
Because I believe that honestly, with this as political, I don't mean to get preachy here, everybody, but what I'm really trying to say here is that you have to get to the core issues before you actually fix everything else.
Yeah. The root
And
cause.
the core issue, I think, with the black community, or with any community that's struggling with drug infested places, corrupt leadership, is honestly the poor examples that are there. They have poor examples of what actually can be. So what I'm saying is, if you don't see better, you're not gonna do better. Does that make sense?
Right.
Absolutely.
If you're in an environment where you don't see anything better, you're not going to do better. So I honestly feel for the Baltimore community that those people there have not seen anything different, so they're not going to act differently. But I can tell them, as a young man myself, is that there is a different, and there's a better way to live, and there's a better leadership that can be installed there that can help to grow that community.
Right.
You mentioned corruption, Deshaun, so I just want to put a nice fact out there. So 2 of the last 4 Baltimore mayors actually resigned due to corruption. These were 2 black females
Wake up, Black America.
that resigned due to corruption. And then 1 refused to seek re-election. This is a 3rd one, also a black female, because of the Baltimore riots and how she handled the police during that time. So it just goes to show that city has been plagued by poor leadership.
Poor
for
leadership.
a long time.
Poor examples, and that's what drove the community down the rat hole. So, I mean, honestly, Trump is right. It is rat infested, and it is broken.
So we all agree that the criticism of Baltimore's leadership was mainly due to rats and not race.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would say.
I mean,
so.
if you look at the history
Sorry.
of Baltimore, they've actually had a total of 12 mayors that have resigned, and most of them were white. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's because they were black that's why it was
Yeah.
happening. But it just shows that city has been under some poor leadership, and there was also one of their. I don't know if it was the police commissioner that was also had to resign due to corruption as well. So it's just a city that's had a history of corruption, and hopefully Trump can shed light on it and start draining the swamp there as well.
Yeah. But I do think that the black community suffer from these plagues the most because they've been pampered for so long in this country because of the whatever we're trying to make up for what we did to them with slavery and things of that nature, that they're suffering the most from these things, like
Certainly.
being corrupted and lacking a sense of familyship, and
They
all
are
these
suffering, man.
issues.
They really are. They're suffering, and I think
Because
that suffering is what's, like
Yeah.
you said, keeping them from actually growing.
it just looks like they excel as far as statistic goes in a lot of these things that are bad, like out of wedlock pregnancies, a crime, things of that nature, that all cause a society to kind of not do well, and that's what's going on in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's
yeah.
not racist, guys.
It's not racist.
It's just pointing out a problem.
but
Pointing out a problem.
it is Rat Race Monday, and we're going to take a break. We'll have interesting stories coming up next.
Politically incorrect.
Hey, PI natives, thanks for tuning in today. The guys would love to hear your feedback, so if you have any questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to talk about, feel free to email us at thepoliticallyincorrectpod@gmail.com or leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The only place where your skin color doesn't determine who you are, but is only cosmetic.
And we're back, everybody. Rat Race Monday.
What's up?
I am Evaldo. He is Matt, and he is Deshaun. We're back, and let's get to our interesting stories. I've got a couple here. The first one I want to talk about is Judicial Watch, which is an organization that fights government corruption, has filed a ethics investigation on one of the squad's, Ilhan Omar, the freshman representative from Minnesota. And she has quite a bit of allegations upon her, which a reporter has had some pretty good data and research or evidence for. And she's being accused of campaign finance fraud, tax fraud, school loan fraud, and marrying her own brother in order to give him papers from the UK in order to be in the country. And they both went to North Dakota State or something like that, and they the fact that they're married illegally or whatever, that they're married and she's married to her real husband, that it would not be legal, or it would be illicit for her to get those federal loans. And another interesting news, we have a woman in a Walmart in Pennsylvania that was caught urinating on potatoes. And this is in light of what you spoke about a few weeks ago, where a woman licked, or people were licking on social media, licking ice cream at Walmart. So apparently this woman, or these people that have been doing this, saw a video of that go viral on social media. So they decided to go up a notch and urinate on the potatoes.
You got crazy people that'll do anything for that 15 minutes of fame. Although that woman with the ice cream, she got a felony charge. So I'd imagine this one's going to get the same.
The social media trends are going crazy because you've got the same thing happening with those police officers. They're being bucketed with water on top of their heads, occurring too all over the place. Yeah. Matt, what do you got?
Well, I had a couple things. There was one actually, you know, I'm going to talk about a local news story for those of you that live in Fall River. There was a conservative Facebook page that was asking the question of whether a Portuguese statue. Now, if you go on one of the main boulevards there's a statue of Prince Henry the Navigator, which is funny because I actually talked about him in one of the church services during worship. I actually mentioned him. I was like, here's a statue that nobody even knows about, and here he is. He's in the news. So they're asking, since we're tearing down statues of Confederate leaders based on their slave roots, why is it that in Fall River, mainly Democrat city, that we have a Portuguese statue of a prince or king that was essential basically to the Portuguese slave trade? So that was a bit of a controversial. I mean, I kind of get what he's saying because he's pointing out the hypocrisy of liberals, saying why is it that we can have this Portuguese king that has slave ties, but yet we can't have people like Robert E. Lee, who didn't even have slaves.
Robert Byrd.
So that was something interesting.
It is interesting. It's just the double standard.
Yeah, so I would like to hear from, especially our local, listeners. What do you think about that? You know, should we tear down that Portuguese? Personally, I don't believe in tearing down any statues or things like that. So,
if anybody should be tearing down Portuguese statues, it's the Criollos right here, because we were not enslaved but colonized by them. But
yeah, we don't like Portuguese people. I'm kidding.
Nah, man, my wife's Portuguese.
We're Portuguese, man.
I love Portuguese people.
I mean, I take care of so many Portuguese old ladies because I work as an aide. And they're the most beautiful people, man. They're so they're humble, they're nice, they're proud, hardworking.
They are hardworking people.
And they certainly are. And that's where I think we get most of our culture from. So we love the Portuguese. But I don't think we should be tearing statues down based off of
No,
past
not at all.
sins. I mean, people.
You know,
people
one
have
of the
done
point
wrong
of,
things, man.
statues is to remember. Sometimes you got to remember those tragic things so that they don't get repeated. So,
Right.
Exactly. Memorials, guys. That's what memorials are for. They're there to remind us of history.
All right, PI Nation. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Again, this is Matt and my fellow hosts. Why don't you say goodbye?
Later, everybody.
Bye-bye.